Hey, thanks for checking out this episode of Kontent Waves, a podcast about content-led innovation and the people in the space who are doing some really, really cool things. I'm your host, Monica, and today's guest is Amelie Winkler. She's an experienced product marketer and great friend of mine. We dig into the craft and adventure that is product marketing. Enjoy! Hey, Amelie, thanks so much for joining us on Kontent Waves. How you doing?
I'm good. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, we are so glad to have you here. From one product marketer to another. I'm especially excited for this conversation. Would you mind introducing yourself to our listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Amelie. I'm leading a small but very senior team here at Appfire in the product marketing department that is focused on our go-to-market strategy. I have a background in B2B, SaaS, and developer platforms. And in my free time, I love to do Thai boxing. I love to read classic literature, bit of Western philosophy as well, and traveling like everyone nowadays. I really love to connect with people that have different mindsets, have different backgrounds, and really understanding the different perspectives that come from that.
Mm-hmm. We are really glad to hear your perspective. I definitely know you as an adventurer. You're always up for a new challenge, something new. And having worked with you as well, I feel like you're someone who's always wanting to find that best path forward and build relationships. So to kick off, what would you say is the draw of product marketing for you? And what challenges do you see as adventures?
Yeah, so for me, the biggest draw with product marketing, I think, is that I'm inherently interested in people. I'm curious about what drives people, what's going on in their mind, what sort of problems they have, and trying to understand the stories that they are living in their worlds. So I think for me, a big thing with product marketing is that I can ask these questions in a in a professional setting, getting paid for it, so to say, and I think that also comes with a certain challenge, right? So really being able to, use your empathy, being able to go deep, zoom in on the human behavior, but then at the same time connecting that to the strategy where you're trying to go, the messaging, the company vision. So I think that is for me the really interesting sort of tension that not many jobs have, where you can go really deep and then sort of connect that with the very high level.
Absolutely. I'd love to get much deeper into your experience and how it shapes the product marketer you are and the leader that you are today. So I know you've had actually a breadth of different product marketing experience. So from small startups to larger product marketing teams. So, and as you mentioned, now you're a team lead. So can you share how these different experiences have shaped how you see the role of product marketing?
Yeah, so like you said, I've been working in a very small startup where I think, like with any job, right, you're wearing so many different hats. You're at the same time a product marketer and a customer researcher and a sales enablement specialist, and you're analyzing data. You're a content creator. Someone wants customer insights. So you're trying to do all these things at the same time, which I think is a really great base to learn like a very broad spectrum. So I'm really grateful for that experience. The benefit of working for a larger organization is that things are more compartmentalized. So you have people that can help you to go deeper with customer research, right? Like maybe in a smaller startup, you're not getting to it on a day-to-day basis, whereas in a larger organization, you have teams that are focused and dedicated to just doing that, and then they can deliver you the insights, and you can gain those insights on a much more frequent basis. So I think that's generally a big advantage of working for a larger organization. I think for PMMs that are looking for maybe a new opportunity or someone who's starting out, it's really important to understand that PMM is different in every organization, and every organization sees PMMs differently. Some have a very stronger focus on competitive intelligence, others have a stronger focus on content creation. And I think it's important for you to understand, does that company's vision of what a product marketer is and what product marketing does in the organization align with what you want to do? Or do you see a potential to sort of like shape the narrative of what product marketing is in the heads of the leadership in that organization? So I think that's something important to think about as well.
That's really a great point. And if the if it's not the right fit for you, or if you can't shape that narrative, there are many other organizations and product marketing experiences that somebody can have. So I would ask then, if product marketing does look a little bit different at every organization, I'm sure there's still one misconception about product marketing that you'd like to bust, no matter the type of product marketer you find yourself in, and no matter the organization you find yourself in.
Yeah, I think the one thing that all of us should stop, calling product marketing is, content creation for product launches. I think in so many organizations, it's just about, like beautifying slides for a new product launch and, like adding things release notes that are on the product roadmap and things like that. And I think product marketing should be so much more than that, right? We are at the intersection. We just spoke about this a little bit. And we're at the intersection of so many different teams, typically with like sales and marketing and customer success. So we're in product marketing, we have very unique insights from all these different teams that we are working on. So we can really help to drive more strategic projects. We can drive the go-to-market strategy, understanding what are our routes to market, what is the product market fit, and how do we see ourselves there, and then obviously from the marketing side, driving the demand across the entire life cycle. So I think the one thing really that organizations should stop doing is just sort of putting the product marketer in a room and be like, okay, create beautiful slides here right now, because that way they really miss out on the deep customer insights that could help to shape the roadmap.
Mm-hmm. And also, as an organization, you miss out on this like super valuable resource, somebody who can see things from many different angles because they've built so many great relationships both within the organization and also outside of the organization. So really, you're not getting the value out of a strategic person that you could otherwise.
Exactly.
So you've already given some great advice because of your vantage point. So I'd like to ride that a little bit more. So for someone who may just be starting out in product marketing, what would you say is a foundational skill or experience that they need early on to build this confidence in their expertise?
Yeah, I think for product marketing, there's no straightforward career path, right? I think we spoke about this a little bit on a personal level a while ago. But every product marketer that I know of, they're coming from a very different route, right? So some of them come from a very technical background, others come directly out of university. But I think in general, there's not someone who's like in kindergarten, they're like, I want to become a product marketer when I'm grown up, right? Mm-hmm. So I think just sort of leaning into a curiosity is the biggest one for me. Like, curiosity is a thing that helps you to really go deep, not being satisfied just with a high level thing. Maybe the first thing that a customer says when you say like, what's your pain point? What do you struggle with on a daily basis? Because there's this concept about asking the 5 why questions, right? Where you can really sort of like get to the more human level and sort of trying to understand what is it that they're actually saying. I think that is super helpful to sort of have this inherent curiosity that you want to go deeper, because that helps you to really connect with the people. And then another skill, I think, is sort of that you mentioned a little bit earlier that product marketing is really at the intersection of so many teams, right? And I think in general, the ability to bridge the gap is a really important one, because as product marketing, you're bridging the gap between the very technical details and then making them really sort of like translate them into customer relevant language, understanding the customer value behind it. You're working with your internal teams who might have different perspectives compared to your external customers. And then, like I said earlier as well, like it's sometimes you're really knee deep in the execution mode and like implementing things, but at the same time, you shouldn't forget the strategy of where you're trying to go and the company vision and the corporate narrative as well. So I think it's sort of that bridge building that is crucial in product marketing. And I think many different experiences can set you up for success there. It doesn't necessarily have to be a straightforward path.
Mm-hmm. Oh, thanks for sharing. And you mentioned the curiosity pieces is so important. Do you find that because you're just naturally curious person that you were, set up to be successful in product marketing, or that when you first landed there, you're like, oh, this is flexing some of the things that just are inherent about me and my personality?
Yeah, I guess for me it's like that, right? Maybe other people have to work harder on that skill. Maybe that is something for me that I genuinely am interested in, right? But then I'm working on other skills that might come more naturally to others. So yeah, I think there's definitely, for me, product marketing has such a broad scope of skills. We spoke about relationship building as well, which is also super crucial. So yeah, I think that's the interesting thing about product marketing. You can sort of like shape the product marketer that you are as well, based on the skills and natural interests that you have.
Oh, that's great. I'd love to dig more into the relationship advice. And you are a relationship builder at heart in a lot of ways. So I want to look at that from both your personas that you focus on and also the internal teams that you work with. So right now, I believe the personas that you work with are very tech savvy. You've got developers, IT admins, but also those business users who are becoming more savvy as well. And you've also had extensive experience marketing software to marketers, which is where we were working together. So I'd love to pick your brain about what it takes to connect with such discerning audiences today, and what are some of the fundamentals of product marketing that you always come back to?
Yeah, I think no matter which audience you're targeting, the key thing is to be willing to sit down and listen, and to just really listen. Listen to try to understand, and not necessarily to try to respond immediately or have an answer ready, to just be there and absorb. I think many of us always have this sort of anxiety a little bit of like, oh, developers, technical audiences, I don't know, they are crazy. But in the end, they are people too, right? Like all of us, we're just human at the end of the day. So I think it's really about trying to understand, like, what is it that really drives them. Maybe they're using a different terminology. You need to obviously sort of get yourself acquainted to that, and getting diving a little bit deeper into some of these communities can definitely help. But then I think it's also really important to cut through that lingo, and not rely on the jargon that you learned through these two books that you read or whatever, because in the end of the day, especially a technical audience will really see through that, and they will be more scrutinizing if you're using words that you don't actually know how to use. And I think it can sort of like make things overly complex and unnecessarily complex. And I think this applies not just to developer audiences, but to any audiences nowadays, right? Like the more you are to the point, the less fluff you use. If you're not so like in your face, I think everyone nowadays really appreciates that, if you can find that human connection with them. And then I think the other thing is also to understand that developers are not developers, right? It's like saying marketers, right? And we're all like, oh, but I'm not a demand generation person, or I'm not a campaign manager, and you're like, that's a totally different marketing persona, right? So I think it's also understanding what are the different developer specific personas, or technical personas that you're trying to connect with. And then you mentioned also the fundamental. I think it's kind of connected to that. The one thing that I keep coming back to is that understanding of like, who's your user persona and who's your buyer persona. Trying to understand in the whole decision-making process, who is involved, who has the influence, who has the purchase power, who's maybe a gatekeeper, but really trying to understand what are their pain points, what are their goals, and then again trying to connect your product or service offering to them, so making them understand how you can make their lives better.
Oh, thanks so much for sharing. I really liked that you break down those monolith definitions of marketers and developers. How did you get past that initial anxiety and then really listen and feel comfortable that you're coming to something maybe you aren't the expert in, and that's okay, and that's actually a benefit for you? How did you get to that point?
Yeah, I think, like I said, it definitely helps to insert yourself into those communities, right? Like there's lots of forums out there that you can follow, like especially like on social media, like LinkedIn. There's all these different Reddit even. But then also there are some books out there that are super helpful, podcasts, like this one, for example. And then I think the other thing is also, like, for me personally, I'm not good with talking about things that I don't know. I'm not good. Like if you put me on stage and be like, okay, now you have to talk about this for 10 minutes. I'm like, oh my God, I don't know what to say. So I think it was also like for me that like, okay, I can't, like if I don't understand something, I need to understand it. I can't just talk around the bush without actually understanding what is happening here or why a certain thing is relevant, just, because it has a big word attached to it. So, I think it was also for me sort of that, overwhelm of like, so many technical terms that I was like, okay, I can't possibly market to these people if I don't understand what these things mean. And then I think when you understand what they mean, you're like, oh, it actually isn't as complex as I thought it would be. So then I think the tricky thing is to avoid yourself becoming that, jargon thrower and like just, hand out the abbreviations and, all the big words yourself, but then trying to, again, keep it at that human level.
Oh, thanks. That's a great piece of advice, especially for new product marketers who do want to feel that confidence. They don't have to manufacture it if they're great listeners.
Yeah.
So another relationship I wanted us to dig into today is, I can imagine you've had tons of experience here as well. For many product marketers, the relationship and enablement of sales organizations is cornerstone to their daily work. So actually, in your current role, the approach is a bit different. So can you give us a glimpse into this different model and why it's interesting for you?
Yeah, of course. So we are working right now primarily not with our internal sales team, but with partner resellers. So we're really training and supplying them with materials so that they can sell our products in the best possible way, which is really interesting, right? Because they have no inherent reason that they want to sell your product or service, right? Because they need to be convinced that it's good for the end customer, because otherwise they risk their relationships for you. So I think it's also from the messaging side, you need to be really sharp and really on the point and connect your products to the customer pain points and the customer problems and show how it can solve those. Because if your resellers are not convinced, then it's really hard to sort of like get through. And then on the other side is that we are really focusing a lot on product-led growth and ensuring that we are enabling our customers directly. That is in product, through events, in partner meetings that we're having together, through communities. So I think that's why it's really important to then sort of make sure that the whole onboarding experience, the whole experience as they are getting used to your products, is as straightforward as it can be. You need to make sure that you have proper product documentation, that you maybe have demos out there. So all those things that can help to educate your customers and bring you closer to the customers is a really good starting point.
That's cool to hear about, especially if you're working with people who are more external than internal. Even more so, you can't rely on internal shorthands or jargon. You have to be very, very clear in your offering and your messaging, because you have all of these external audiences who don't have that insider look that you have.
Exactly. And I think it's a great point, like you said, right? They are having, they're almost like your critical sounding board, right? If they don't understand some jargon or some abbreviations that you use, then, okay, you need to go back to the drawing board because it wasn't good enough.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's really good, helpful advice for folks who are probably new to product marketing as well. So it sounds like a lot of challenges to deal with, a lot of adventures as well, but I'm sure there are some big wins that make you really excited to show up every day at work. So would you share an example with us about a big win in your career so far? So something that made you go, oh yeah, this is what product marketing is about for me. We'd love to hear the enthusiasm.
Yeah, so I think the one thing that does come to mind, is again, like this idea of building connections. When we were doing, it was like 1.5 years or 2 years ago, we were doing a round table at one of the biggest industry events in our space. And it was with some of our customers and some influencers in the space. We were working with them for a few weeks on like planning out the content and, like what sort of like guidance do we want to provide? How deep do we want to go? How high level do we want to keep it? And it was really amazing to finally stand on stage there and watching the audience open up. It was worth all the messy prep work that we were doing beforehand, because you could really feel the connection between the insights that were shared on stage and how the customers felt in the audience.
Mm-hmm. And can you give us a little bit of a glimpse into what that messy prep work was?
Yeah, so like I said, because it was some internal team members, some customers, and then some influencers in the space. Obviously, it was first of all really hard to get us all together and sort of like define the narrative of what we want to talk about. And then the other thing is, because we knew it was a technical audience, it was also challenging to understand how deep do we want to go? How deep can we go realistically in a half an hour session? Or how high level do we want to keep it? Because again, if you're like talking too high level, and then it just feels like you're way above the clouds, and it's not really useful advice. But on the other hand, if you would have gone like super deep and shown actually how someone has solved a problem, like worked through a problem, that would have like easily taken 20 minutes of the whole 30 minutes, right? So I think it was like understanding that, the sort of hands-on guidance that we wanted to provide, and then the high level, like how deep we go and how high level do we keep it in that amount of time.
That's such a delicate balancing act. And it sounds like all of product marketing in some way is a delicate balancing act of how much, how little to take your message to make sure you are being clear and direct, and also excited and motivated storyteller for your audiences as well. Thanks so much for sharing all of these insights and recommendations. It's been really helpful to hear from somebody who's had so many different product marketing experiences so far. So to close out today, I really wanted to also ask you a couple of questions around the content itself. So we're here to ride the content wave. Every episode, we ask our guests, what's a book or an article or a podcast or a piece of content that you return to over and over again? And can you let us know why?
Yeah, and I had to think about this for a little, because I was first thinking to, add something very typical product marketing-y, but then I was like, no. So the book that I keep going back to, that's, for me, it is Marcel Proust, In Search of Lost Time. It's definitely not a traditional product marketing book. You're not going to learn any product marketing skills from that. So just as a disclaimer, you're going to learn about how nice freshly baked madeleines smell, but you have to get 200 pages into it first. So yeah, I don't think it's worth it from that perspective. But what I really like is that Proust has a really good way to build characters and trying, understanding how people would actually think, and like I said earlier, going that one level deeper, understanding how the world looks like for these people that he built in the book. And so I think from that perspective, novels in general, be it Proust or any other novel that you want to read, are a really great tool for product marketers, because in the end of the day, product marketing is about building stories that can connect with real people. So
I think that's the first time we've had that recommendation on the podcast, but I can imagine that is a great recommendation to draw inspiration from great stories. So I think that's wonderful advice for our listeners. So Amelie, I really appreciate the time that you spent with us today, and the stories that you shared and the insights you provided. And always a pleasure to catch up with you as well.
Thanks so much for having me this morning.